I'm sorry, I'm jumping gun on you. We're good? All right. I'll call the New Hartford Public Schools Board of Education meeting to order at 7 p.m. We begin our meetings with the pledge. I'll ask everybody to stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Chair to select order of business. I have no changes. So with that, we'll jump right into the superintendent's report. Brian?
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, everyone. I am pleased to introduce Principal Carroll and Principal Shaw to present their school improvement plans for the current school year. We focused on three main goals, which is aligned to the district's strategic plan as far as improving student achievement, improving school climate, and also expanding technology-based opportunities for kids. We've been doing this for the last several years as far as measured specific goals and how the district can improve. We've kept those same goals. I'm very pleased to state we've made very good progress in those three areas. But with every improvement plan and every year, we have areas to work on, and we're committed, and we understand the immediacy of improving on those three goals there. I don't want to steal any thunder of the principals. They worked hard in the presentation. They worked very diligently with their school leadership teams. We're just giving you a brief overview. The Connecticut State Department of Education has released data as far as the standardized scores. As we know, students in grades 3 to 6 in Antolini School complete state standardized assessments every year. It was a respite because of COVID, so last year was the first year since that hiatus from the standardized tests. The State Department of Education has informed districts that there was learning loss because of COVID-19. As you could see, as the principals will present tonight, we did exhibit some learning loss in some grade levels. I'm pleased to say in some other grade levels, we do not exhibit very little or no learning loss, which is a testament to the teachers and the leadership of the principals. And of course, Barb plays a part, and Heather as well, as far as those scores are concerned. I really want, I know the principals are going to focus on strategies and interventions on how to improve. I think they're quite voluminous, I think they're quite specific, and I think they're quite comprehensive in saying that. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Principal Carroll. She'll review Bakerville School and New Hartford Elementary School as far as the data that was reported from last year, and also her strategies for the schools and how to improve and get better in all those three areas. Before Kelly does start, another important data point from the State Department of Education was students who were offered in-person learning did better than those districts that were not offered the in-person experience. And I'm very happy with the support of the Board of Education. We did offer in-person learning a lot more than many districts in the state. And I think our scores do reflect that as well. But that was an important data point as far as in-person and remote learning, those differences. So Kelly, Principal Carroll, thank you. We look forward to your presentation right now.
So as Brian had mentioned, even though I'm the one presenting this, the school improvement plans are truly a group effort. So my leadership team, which is represented with a grade level, a classroom teacher from each grade level, a paraprofessional, a specialist, the curriculum coordinator, they're all on the team with me. So this is truly a collective effort. We look at our data, we think about what do we want to do to improve, where do we want to be, how are we going to get there? And that's where this plan comes in place. So our New Hartford theory of action, I think what's most important is you notice that it says that we want to ensure all students are meeting growth targets. So that comes with our intervention strategies. We take a look at that data, We make sure that we're targeting all the students who need some support, and we ensure that they get that support. And what the school improvement plan does is we make this theory of action come to life. So we say this every day at my school. This comes over the announcements. We say these words that we're safe, caring, respectful of others, and proud of our differences. Every day we work together to learn, to grow, and to create a stronger community. And we don't just say it, we actually live and breathe this. It is through our climate goals that we teach kids to be kind and to love each other and to be a school community. So even though this is on paper, we are truly making this actionable every day. So we do align very nicely. You'll notice that some of the things Amanda tells you are the same things I'm telling you. And that's because we have this really beautiful alignment in our district. We start with our 5-year district goals, and we keep narrowing them down so they become our school goals. And as Brian mentioned, we have academic goals, climate goals, and technology goals. So in this school improvement plan, you will notice here comes some of that refinement. So our first goal is in reading, to read and comprehend complex literary and informational texts independently and efficiently. In math, we're going to attend to precision. For school climate, we're looking to make sure that we have a shared vision and a plan for promoting and enhancing positive school climate. You've heard a lot about social learning. That's where this goal will focus. And obviously, we always want to utilize technology to really expand opportunities again for all students. Okay, so in literacy, here are our strategies. Now, how are we going to achieve this goal? Okay, so obviously, we look at data all of the time. So that's number one. We're always reviewing our data. That drives our decision making. Not only this year, we're finally back to in-person learning, so it makes the ability to have meetings and collaborate much easier. So we embed professional development in everything that we do. We talk about our reading strategies. We're also really working on the science of reading this year. So the science of reading is really taking all of those research-based strategies that help kids learn how to read and make sure we're looking at all of those components. So that's a big focus this year. And we'll do that through our weekly PLC meetings. That was something that last year we didn't get to have quite as often due to many different factors with COVID, but we're back. So that's going to give all of us a really great opportunity to take a look at our data and move on from there. As part of our working on the science of reading, we are implementing something called Hegarty. It's a phonemic awareness program, and that looks at many components of learning to read. And we're starting to mirror that with our foundations program, which we've had. And as you know, we have a very exciting initiative. We have our before school tutoring program. So we're able to really capture more students than we have in the past and provide those intensive interventions for them. So what's important is having these strategies. How are you going to measure it? How will we know we're making progress toward our goal, or where do we need to refine what we're doing? So we have some in-house assessments. They're called Countess and Canal. They're our reading assessments. Those give us a really comprehensive look of our students as readers. Additionally, our Teachers College funding records, those are more of a formative assessment. Those are ongoing often. Use those to take a good look at our students. Our foundations assessment, which I just talked about. We also have DIBELS. Now, DIBELS is also a dyslexia screener. So it looks at a gamut of different reading strategies and decoding strategies. So we can pinpoint, again, exactly where we need students to have a boost. And that's where we would pick them up in our SRBI or in our before school tutoring program. Okay. So math goal number 2. So there are standards for mathematical practice that span grades K through 12. So those are really comprehensive goals that kids need to have to be considered proficient mathematicians. So this year we're looking at attend to precision. And what that really means is not only can kids work accurately, but can they communicate with precision? So can they use their math symbols with precision? Can they formulate equations and explain what they are? Can they represent those with pictures? And are they really accurately explaining their mathematical thinking? And that's going to move with them throughout the course of their educational career. So as you know, we are in our second year of illustrative math. We're going to continue to work on ensuring that we're implementing that with fidelity. We have our math growth data, which I'll show you in a bit. That also is a great assessment. It really pinpoints where kids are falling down in math or where they may need some, maybe they need a little bit of a boost in math. We also, again, have our PLC time to really take a look at our data and improve the way that we're teaching students. So a big part is that the daily number talks. So number talks is something we started a couple years ago, but we're again putting a major focus on this. Number talks is a complementary piece of math instruction. It fits in with any program. Students take a list of expressions, and this is where they will communicate. How are you solving that? What tools are you going to use? What might an equation look like? What might be another way to think about breaking down that number? So that really targets that attempt to precision goal. And our students really love it. It's a very engaging piece of their day. And then again, we are going to be identifying students who need additional math support for our New Force School tutoring program. So the assessments that help us measure this are the math growth assessment, and I'll show you those scores in a bit. And then obviously our illustrative math program has formative, ongoing, daily assessments that teachers use to help decide their instructional plan for the following day. So for our school climate goal, so we have been working really hard to ensure a positive school community, not only through Ruler, but through our second step lessons. We are going to continue to implement those. We are in our second year of Ruler with our students. It went really well last year. We have increased what our students will be doing as far as lessons and daily routines. And we also want to make sure that that's incorporated throughout everything that our students do throughout the day, not only with what they're doing, but with the way that their adults in the school are modeling that behavior for them. We also really want to make sure that we continue to communicate with the board of ed, with PTO, with our parents, because that's another great connection that really helps build that positive school community. And the indicator is the climate survey data, which again, I will show you in a bit. So technology, which we love, we do want to expand that technology for all students. Last year was a dream year for technology. We learned so much. We had all of our kids on technology. Even our pre-kindergarten students had opportunities to use iPads. So I think this is something we're really excelling in, and I think that our momentum is headed in the right direction. So something we're working on this year is teaching students the importance of having your own password. So this is something we're changing from the past. This is obviously something we need to know as a life skill. It's been challenging thus far because it makes it harder on us to help our students get on, but they've become really great at learning the keyboard, learning their passwords, and that brings them to just a world of apps that we use for learning at school. And another big change is we switched to something called Securely. And Securely helps us to monitor what students are doing. So we are able to see, can a student log on? Can they get to Dreambox? Can they get to Lexia? How long are they on Lexia? So it's a great tool for us to monitor our student usage. And it's also going to be the indicator. So we'll be able to monitor data through Securely and see how we're doing as far as getting kids using their technology. That's not all. So although that's all that we're focusing on, there's so many other great things that are happening. So we have our additional priorities, and I'll highlight just a couple. So one thing that we've noticed is that we have had a slight influx of English learners. So those are students who come to school, they may be dual language, speaking 2 languages already. They may be more proficient in one language than another. So these are challenges. But what happens is we get them as early readers. And we need to understand how that language process impedes their progress to reading in English. Because there's translating going on, there's confusion with syntax. So we're working hard to really recognize what we need to do for them and then work on strategies to help improve their reading in English. We're happy to have our learning rounds back. So we'll be able to go visit other classrooms, talk about instructional strategies, get back in with our colleagues and really sort out the best ways to teach different things. It was something we weren't able to do last year, so we're really excited to have that back. And we will continue to norm our scoring techniques and obviously SRBI and identifying those kids who need intervention. That's just going to continue to be a really critical strategy this year and something we will work on for the duration. So we also have, at my level, we've been working on our high five rules for our school. So my climate committee, we will be helping teachers to continue to implement that, have strategies. It's again just a school-wide climate initiative. It mirrors nicely with Ruler, and it mirrors nicely with Second Step. And then we're also very excited because we can get back out into the community. We are going to get back into Kindness in Motion, which is a community outreach where kids get to decide their own project. It's funded through the district, and they can go out and spread kindness in whatever way that they would like to. It's really wonderful. Okay, so you're going to notice that one of the columns is missing. That's just because at the end of 2020, when we were all sent home, we didn't have the opportunity to assess all of our students at the end of the year. So unfortunately, that's a missing data point. But I am thrilled to show you the difference between our 18-19 year and where we ended up last year, because it speaks volumes to the expertise and dedication of our teaching staff. Yes, there is some learning loss, but the scores are so tremendous when you consider all the challenges we face, and I couldn't be more proud to stand in front of you and tell you that we did it. Okay, so if you take a look, you'll notice I made them in bold. There's not that much of a difference from the 18-19 to the 2020. And this is found to Simpanel. These are our reading scores. So these are measuring students reading at benchmark. And if you look at our K2 overall, 2 years ago, we were only 2 percentage points higher. And that was obviously a year with no interruptions like we had last year. So I'm very proud of that. Here is a visual, so you can see how close we are. And here is, I've got 1 year of dibbles. Now the reason for that is we just started really learning how to look at our dibbles data last year. So that's why I've given you a full year of dibbles. Next year we'll have a little bit more. But again, I think what you want to take a look at is if you look at the end of the year, the amount of kids who started at benchmark and ended at benchmark, significant increases. And again, I'm so proud of our teachers for really targeting.
Can I just ask a quick question? Can you tell me what the BOY and the EOY stand for, please?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I should have said that. So we use a SCAD of acronyms, beginning of the year, end of year.
Oh, okay.
I apologize, I
Thank you.
probably should have told you that. So our end of year EOY, I'm just so impressed with them. They've done such a nice job. So even if you look, here's our overall scores. I mean, in many cases, we have doubled or more than doubled by the end of the year. Here is a visual for that might be double. The green and the blue, those are our at goal and above goal. So our writing scores, again, I'm just so proud. I think what we took a look at last year is how did we really cut it down? We were laser focused last year in ensuring that our kids got exactly what they needed to meet those targets in writing. And again, I'm just so proud they did it. I do have to tell you though, kindergarten is, I want to make sure I tell you this. So you'll notice that kindergarten started at the beginning of the year at 97% and they went to 98. I just want you to understand how significant that 98 is in kindergarten. At the beginning of the year, the requirement is to draw a picture. That's all we can require a beginning kindergartner to do. If they can draw a picture and tell you about it, they get a really high score on their prompt, their on-demand prompt. So that 97 is picture drawing. That 98%, those are writers. Okay, those are kindergarten writers. They have a beginning, middle, and end. It's so impressive to me that they get to that level. The reason they wanted me to show you that is because it looks as though kindergarten starts so high in comparison, but there's a reason for that. It's developmentally appropriate for kindergartners. Okay. But if you look again, just something to be proud of, we started with 55% on target and ended at 94. Visual for it. So this is our math test. This is math growth. So math growth measures two things. It measures achievement in math, and it also measures growth in math. So where do kids start and where do they end? And again, very comparable to 2 years ago. We have got high percentages of students making outstanding growth or achieving very highly in math. There's a visual for that. I mean, overall, we're only 3% lower during our COVID year than we were years prior. Just really proud of them. And so our school climate. So this gives us a real temperature check on how kids are feeling at school, do they like coming to school? And even with all the craziness last year, I have to say our kids really like coming to school. This is our 93%. I like coming to school. So that tells me a lot about kids feeling loved, feeling safe, and enjoying what they're doing at school every day. And I also am happy to see that the last one, bullying as a problem, has decreased to 33%. And I believe a lot of that is teaching our kids what does bullying really mean. So through Second Step, through Ruler, through all of our social emotional learning, we're teaching kids to be kind and to treat others the nice way. I think that that's really reflected in our scores. And then our family survey, I do want to explain there's an NA, wasn't applicable. I feel welcome at my child's school. Last year we weren't allowed to have volunteers in the school, so we didn't ask parents how they felt, because they probably didn't feel very welcome. But again, I'm really happy with the scores I'm seeing here. We work really hard to ensure that we're communicating with parents, inviting them in when they can, involving them in our schools. So I'm very thrilled to see that our parents feel this way. And again, with our social emotional learning, our bullying percentage has gone down. The parent survey as well. Yes.
Do you know how many parents responded to your email, to the survey?
Yeah, it's about 35%. A little higher than normal.
So in conclusion, this is our school improvement plan. We already know that we're doing great things here. Yes, there are some gaps to fill, and we have strategies to fill them. We are going to work diligently all year to assess our students, to know where we need to close those gaps, and we're going to get them. And again, I just want to say thank you to my school leadership team, because they put this plan into action with me every single day, and I'm just really proud to be part of that team. Love to answer your questions.
Sorry, are you gonna?
That's okay.
Did you guys start Haggerty? Did you start that?
Yes, so what we did is last year, because there was so much going on, Heather put out, this again speaks to our teachers, Heather sent out an email halfway through the year. I have this new great program I want to try next year. It's called Haggerty. If anyone is interested in trying to dabble in it a little bit, do you know that all of our teachers said yes, including me? So we started poking around in it last year, getting our feet wet. This year, it's a daily 10-minute exercise for all of our students every single day.
We do it in Avon.
Yeah, the kids love it.
Yeah.
Yes, very engaging. It's the science of reading.
Kelly, I'm curious, when you talk about English learners, are we adequately equipped to handle English learners? Do we have bilingual staff?
So we do not have bilingual staff. And what's interesting too is, I think we typically think of English learners as students who speak Spanish. And that's actually a very low percentage of our English learners. We have all kinds of languages coming in. So what we do is we utilize our speech teachers or speech pathologists, because they've got that knowledge and background in learning the language. So we really count on them to help us out with that. But what's important to know is that I did some training with my staff at the beginning of the year. Many of the strategies that English language learners need are ones that we're really already doing at our level, because they're those very foundational skills. So what we do is just really support that whole language environment for them, And it's very interesting because we've had kids come in who don't speak any English, and by the end of the year, just being absorbed in this environment, they have
They're
picked up
immersed in it.
so much.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's our job just to pick up on those academic skills. So far, I think we're doing a really nice job, but we, again, are monitoring that to ensure that we do meet the needs of all of our kiddos.
Any other questions for Kelly?
I have one on the, when we're looking at these results, wouldn't a better, or maybe I guess, the indicator between where they start at the beginning of the year to the end of the year and the percent increase or decrease, if that was to happen, wouldn't that be a better indicator than, it's a different subset of students. You're looking at kindergarten students in 18-19, which was one set of students versus 2020, 2021 with a whole new set of students. All right, for instance, I'm looking at, reading. If I look at K2 overall, at beginning of the year, the end of the year, 25% increase in meeting expectations. 2020, 2021 is a 33% increase. Wouldn't that be a better indicator, or am I reading this wrong?
So it depends on which graph you're looking at.
Okay.
Many of the graphs, for school improvement plans, we worked really hard with some experts from the state. And what they've advised us and supported us in is you use your end of year scores to represent all that work that you've done throughout the year. Some of ours, like our dibbles, because I only have that 1 year, we did include the beginning of the year to end comparison. So are you asking if there is?
Well, I guess I'm looking at reading, right? I'm looking at the charts for reading, and I'm looking at the chart you have up top. And we're looking at kindergarten, right? To use them as an example, you compared 93% to 87%, right? So we had a drop in that particular kindergarten, but it's a different group of students,
Yes.
right? It's a whole different group of students. So to me, I'm looking at where were they at the beginning of the year to where did they land at the end of the year, and that's a better indicator of our teaching program, right?
So you're thinking of cohort comparison across,
Right.
say, 3 years.
Right, because again, it may look bad that they went from 93 to 87, right? But if you look at beginning of the year to end of the year, you increased by 31. Right? There was a bigger increase in the 18-19 class, but again, that indicator is with that subset of students.
What you should be looking at is end of year kindergarten 93%, and then grade 2 end of year 85%, because essentially that's the same group of students.
The same cohort or subset of students.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
you would think that would be the comparison that we'd be most interested in.
Yes, and actually, we do that internally. So when we sit and meet with a vertical team, so say like second grade to third grade, we do look at our cohorts over time, because that is a great indicator of, are things falling apart along the way? Are we doing that's really great along the way? So we do look at that. For the school improvement plan, we do tend to look more at those end of year results. But that work you're talking about, we do that during our meetings at school.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Kelly.
Thank you.
So, as Kelly mentioned, we work in school teams, but Kelly and I also collaborate. So what you'll notice in both of our school improvement plans and in what I'm going to share is there's a lot of overlap. Obviously, we're a small district, we're in constant communication, we have regular ongoing meetings, not just within our schools, but district-wide as well. Kelly talked about the theory of action. This is the Angelini School Mission Statement that is posted in the school, that we believe that all members of the Angelini School community are entitled to a safe, orderly environment where every person is respected and included. Each of us is expected to demonstrate behaviors that promote positive academic and social development by staying in our community. And like Kelly mentioned, we have the school climate plan, school climate team, that means regularly to talk about what's happening within the school, areas for improvement, to really support student growth, not just academic success as well. 5-year goals are the same as our New Hartford Public School goals. So the first goal is, as this goal has been in place now, this is the fourth year, read and comprehend complex literary and informational text independently and proficiently. It's a very broad goal, but then specifically underneath we come up with strategies that really will support student learning. So this year our focus is on really evaluating our current practices in language arts. We have now a language arts committee that's looking at our practices in reading, writing, and all other areas of language arts, grammar, spelling, the introductory reading skills that students learn at the K-2 level. And also, we're looking at how they align to the common core standards and really make sure that we have our really comprehensive program. It's just part of the natural process. We want to reflect, make sure that we make improvements as needed. And then we're always looking at how those are interlinked with our development. On an ongoing basis, we look at the data, we look at those individually. Teachers look at their data for their students, they evaluate their own practices, they set goals around their own data, but then we look at them with grade level PLCs and teams, and then we look at those as a school-based team. We have an interlinked data team that reviews data and looks for patterns, and then we also look at that as a whole staff, and really where are the areas that we need to improve. And we do that for our internal data, but then also front of balance data. And then as needed, we engage in professional development. Most recently, we have included foundations, which are using at the K-2 level. We've expanded that to 3rd and 4th grade. We're providing professional development in that area for the 3rd and 4th grade teachers to make sure they understand how to use the foundation program within their classroom. And the tutoring program and SRBI. We are implementing both of those. SRBI has been in place here for many, many years. And the tutoring program will begin in mid-October as Kelly, Heather, and I have done. So we're excited about that as well. Indicators are very similar to what Kelly shared as well. We use the Conscious Personnel Reading Assessment. We do that all the way from kindergarten through 6th grade. We use DIBELS in 3rd grade as well. Teachers College Running Records goes along with our Readers Workshop program. And then we have Smart Balance. Summative assessments we use at the end of the year, but then throughout the year we also use the interim assessments, which take pieces of the summative assessment and provide opportunities for students to learn about what's on the assessment and practice taking them throughout the year, so that they're not surprised with the assessment in the spring. And it's something that we use. Our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who have taken the test are familiar with the format, they're familiar with the content of it, but the 3rd graders really, it's very different from how we instruct in reading and writing, so they really need to learn how it's formatted and how to approach taking the test. So we do spend a lot of time on that as well. I jumped to the data. I know Kelly did all of the goals first, but here's our reading data for Conscious and Personnel. We did have a drop in 2019 to this past year. 6th grade, there's no data from 2 years ago because they were not taking it at the time. We tried using a different assessment that year, so that's why there's no data from 2 years ago. But overall, there was a drop within the school. The 2 years ago, we were at 88.5%, and this year we're at 71.7%. So it's definitely an area that we are evaluating and working on. And in particular, 5th grade, there was quite a significant difference. And Tim, as you mentioned, it's a different group of kids, but even if we look at the 3rd grade and the 5th grade during those 2 years, it's still a drop. So we are focused on what's going on with that for students as well. We also have DIBELS data in grade 3, the percentage of students who were at or above benchmark in the spring increased over the course of the year. DIBELS is a little bit interesting by the time they get to the end of 3rd grade. So there are some areas that are very beginning reading skills. Students who are learning letter names and letter sounds, and so by the end of 3rd grade, if they don't know those for whatever reason, perhaps they've just never acquired them, it does impact their score. So one of the interventions that we typically do at the 3rd grade level really have to do with comprehension and fluency, not just those beginning skills. But this does help us to identify students who are struggling readers and provide intervention. But once we get beyond 3rd grade, we really start looking at comprehension, fluency, and accuracy. We see constantly now. And our writing data, compared to 2 years ago, for the whole school, it's very similar. Our percentage did not change much. But you can see that there's great variation from grade to grade in terms of whether they maintained or decreased compared to 2 years ago. So 4th and 5th grade had a very big difference. 4th grade compared to 2 years ago went significantly down. 5th grade went significantly up. But that's something, again, that we are focused on working on in terms of ensuring that students are getting the support they need in terms of improving with writing. I will mention that looking at our beginning of year writing right now, we are noticing that that's an area that was impacted in particular for our distance learners. Where students who were distance learners throughout last year were able to maintain reading and math, the writing is definitely impacted. I think the stamina that goes along with writing within a classroom is a little bit different when kids are home. So we have noticed a very big difference there for those kids who were home for a significant period of time last year. And then our Smart Balance ELA data is not terribly different from what it was 2 years ago and 3 years ago. Overall, our percentage is 63.1% this year, who met goal. Overall for 3rd and 6th grade. 2 years ago, 64.2, and 3 years ago, 65.6. So it's a slight decrease, but not significant. Are there any questions about ELA before I go on to math? So our second goal is attendance precision, and that does have to do with accuracy, with computation, with the fluidity with which students do their facts is a really important component when they get to 3rd to 6th grade because it will help them to compute more accurately. And then communicating about mathematics. So using correct vocabulary, ensuring that they can explain the processes that they're following when they are solving problems. Sometimes we do things like bulleted lists when they're explaining their process, and all of that goes into attending to precision within mathematics. So our strategies are to analyze math data, much like we do with ELA. We do that at the individual teacher grade level and whole school level. We are implementing illustrative math for the 2nd year in grades 3 to 5. In grade 6, this is actually their 3rd year of implementation. So they started that a year earlier because the program was available at the middle school level. And we're quite pleased with the implementation of that program and really feel that it's addressing more student needs and more areas of common core standards. We engage in professional development about illustrative math and about math practices with teachers, and really focus on ensuring that students are engaged in math within the classroom and continue to provide support to students who are struggling through SWI and with the virtual tutoring program. And our data points are our illustrative math, formative and summative assessments, and smart balance assessments with summative assessments, and then our, just like with the ELA, there are interim assessments tied to smart balance that we administer throughout the year and look at that data and plan for further instruction. Our smarter balance math data is really varied from 2 years ago. Our grade 4 and grade 5 scores dropped quite a bit, but grade 3 and grade 6 are quite good relative to 2 years ago. Grades 4 and 5, if we remember back, so those kids missed 3 months of the previous school year. We closed in March, they were closed until June. The content that those 2 grades missed was significant. And so what happened last year was the teachers had to make up for those 3 months and continue to teach the entire year's worth of instruction, which is not physically possible within that time frame. So kids missed instruction in areas like fractions, which is huge in fourth and fifth grade. Multiplication and division of multi-digit numbers, huge in fourth and fifth grade. And so those are the areas that they missed in the spring of that previous year. So teachers did their best to try to make up for that, but there was definitely an impact in terms of smart balance. So we're seeing less of that right now. They're working on making sure that we're continuing to close those gaps in terms of instruction, but it was definitely noted by all the fourth and fifth grade teachers. There were just areas that were completely, there was no way to talk to them. So, but sixth grade, with it being their second year of illustrative math, even when they were distance learning, through closures, whether it was an individual class or the few weeks that we were closed at school, with them being sixth graders, they smoothly moved to online learning and were able to keep up with the program. So math instruction was not impacted in sixth grade. And the teachers were much more comfortable with the program with being their second year of implementation. So, and then as a whole school, there was a bit of a loss. We went from 56.8% to 52.8% at goal. But considering the drop in a couple of the grade levels, overall, it wasn't a surprising impact here with math, but that's definitely something we are addressing. Are there questions about math?
Yeah, I'm trying to process all of this. I'm looking at the report that came from our kids, that ELA report.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm wondering, is it the fourth and fifth grade that missed all of that core foundation of fractions and what you had just explained to us? Is that what's bringing our school average down? Because if you look at the average, it says we're in the approaching, level 2, approaching what they should be at. Is that enough students in there to have dipped us down to that? Like, if you look at this, it says what your kid's score is, and then it says what the district average is and what the school average is. And
Yeah.
the school average number is 2473. And that puts us in the category of approaching level 2.
Right.
I mean, I see the same thing in reading, so I'm just assuming that that's all that is, but I mean, we're barely into meeting expectations on reading, and we're in approaching in level 2 for math. So I just was like, I read that and my face hit the floor, and then I was trying to understand these reports without hearing them. Do you know what I mean? I mean, your explanation does help, but I was, I mean, correct, I mean, I could totally be wrong, but that was my initial gut instinct was, wow.
But if we're talking about, right, so fourth grade and fifth grade
Mhm.
had. Go back to these questions.
I mean, that is technically half the school, right?
It
Fourth
is.
and fifth grade, so
It
then it would I mean, it's not, I mean, but if you look at your average, it doesn't look like it dropped that much, so is that then not, you said was 50, it was at,
52.8, I'm sorry, 52.2%.
Yeah.
At goal.
okay. That was our target goal, was 52%?
That's what this is. That's what,
Okay.
that's the percentage that met goal. And what goal is.
Oh, that met goal, I thought it said our goal, I was like,
No.
okay,
Our goal's higher than that. I mean, so those are the percentage of students who scored at a level 3 or a level 4 on that.
What are you looking at then?
But I think if I understand what you're saying, you're asking whether the fourth and fifth grade scores being that low was enough to impact the whole school.
right,
But yes, if that's half of the students. So even though we had an increase in third grade and sixth grade, it wasn't enough to counteract the fourth and fifth. Is that what you're?
yeah, I guess, I just, I'm just trying to figure out why we're just approaching, you know what I mean? And was it enough of just those two classes to bring it that far down?
Yeah.
Pause. This is a test that they test all the kids every year, and it's the ELA,
Smarter balance.
the Smarter
Some of
Balance.
Oh,
Sorry,
that's for,
the
your
children.
student.
Yeah, they test your child, and then they tell you what your child's score was, and then they tell you like what the school is and what the district is, like in comparison to where your child's at. So that's where I kind of,
It's sent to parents.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's why I don't have one.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I didn't give them last year either, thanks to COVID. This is my first time seeing it, so it was like, what am I looking at? So hence the question.
So I have a question. I don't know if I should wait or jump the gun, but the new tutoring program, is that underway and how's the participation rate?
So that's starting October 19th. Yeah, and that's true in all three buildings. That's when we're starting. But we have identified all of the students who are in need of intervention, and that will be delivered either through school during the school day or before school. And the ones who are receiving it before school, obviously, we need parents to be able to drive them in. So that's how we're working on identifying those. But parent notification will happen next week. With the start date of October 19th. So we'll be able to report out on that later in the fall.
Great, thank you.
School climate goal is about promoting a shared vision and plan for promoting, enhancing, and sustaining a positive school climate. And very specifically, what we're looking at is parents knowing how their students are doing, their children are doing before they get the report card. So it's really important that parents are communicated, teachers are communicating with parents along the way, so that there's not a surprise when you get a report card. And just in general, for parents in the community to understand what's happening within the schools, so things like updates to the Board of Ed and PTO, holding curriculum nights to inform the public about what's happening in the Washington math, social emotional learning. Obviously, use the Friday folder where every week we communicate what's happening. We're implementing second step as well in grades 3 through 6, and we're using the ruler approach with all students. And then Friday we have open house virtually this year, because it is important for parents to understand what's happening, see what's happening with the curriculum, really connect with the children's teachers. And then, of course, every teacher has an individual way that they communicate, whether it's via email or a social media platform or phone calls. But really, our expectation is that there's communication throughout the school year. And our school climate survey results, our student survey results were quite strong, very much in line with where they were 2 years ago and 3 years ago. And so we're quite proud of those. And then our parent results, the area I know how my child is doing in school before I get my child's report card, that's where there was a decrease, which is why we're going to focus on that this year. And part of that, I think, just has to do with the fact that parents were not in the school and not coming by as much, so I think that connection felt a little bit lost as well. So we will be continuing to focus on that. And finally, we have a technology goal. We do incorporate technology into all aspects of our curriculum, and that is true in the classroom, in the special areas, really across the board, and we try to focus on the thoughtful use of technology. So everyone does have a device that was started, of course, last year to address COVID needs, but regularly students are using a device for things like Dreambox, you may have heard of, that they're using to practice the math skills, and by the time they get to sixth grade, they're using this all the time. They're doing their writing on there, they're doing their reader responses on there, for practicing math. So it's really used across the board. A couple of years ago, we started the global manufacturing program with Goodwin University. And this year, we are bringing them to fifth grade as well, so that they have just a little bit of an introduction to it. So each class will get to work with Macedonia from Goodwin University a couple of times during the year and get a sense of what they'll be learning when they get to sixth grade. But that has been really well received. The kids truly enjoy learning about the advanced manufacturing, and they like to use 3D printers to they design their product and then print it using the 3D printers. Most classes now have or will have a Promethean board. We are getting a few more the next couple of weeks, right?
Hopefully, yes.
And that will only leave third grade to have Promethean boards in this building, which is really terrific. And then we work, we have teachers helping teachers do something called Ed Camp and providing professional development to their peers to help advance everyone's understanding of technology. And some of our additional priorities are to revisit learning rounds with the administrators of the classrooms on an ongoing basis throughout the school year. Peer observations and peer coaching, where teachers are working with teachers or observing a peer teacher to really advance their own practices. Talked about analyzing data and really looking at the areas that need improvement. Revisiting PLCs. As Kelly mentioned, those were on hold last year. Now teachers are, they have PLCs once a week with their grade level colleagues. And there's also a special ed PLC. So we're really engaged in special conversations on an ongoing basis. I talked about the common scoring and student work. We're also using mystery science in grades K to 5. And I don't know if any of your kids have come home talking about it, but it is a really incredibly engaging program for science. And we started using it a bit last year, and this year we're using it exclusively, and it's incredibly interesting and very, it's not just fun, they do really learn the science concepts. And then we're starting to look at reviewing and revising our social studies curriculum. The standards are have changed, and it's important that our curriculum reflects updated changes. Last year we put DARE on hold, but we will be going back to DARE probably starting after Thanksgiving. And we are partnering with Oak Hill again. Last year, again, we weren't able to do all of the wonderful things that we do with Oak Hill, but we're able to connect with them again this year. There are students from Oak Hill, if you remember when Josh and Emily were here, students from Oak Hill join the classrooms for morning meetings, sometimes for academics. There's students who volunteer in the Oak Hill classrooms, and we'll be starting unified sports again soon, where students from Angelini volunteer. Barb can explain better, but they partner with students from Oak Hill and some of our own students to provide an experience that's really based on it's not non-competitive sports. Thank you. About leadership and ability, working together so that students with disabilities can, successfully participate in athletic events. Thank you. We also have a program called Performance Matters that really helps us to analyze data in a different way. It goes along with our Power School program, so that's something that we are using, and we are thrilled to have kind of devotion back on the table. Many of your kids participated in that, and it's really a really wonderful opportunity for students to get experience with community outreach, whether it's just within Angelini School or the community at large. And there's some really terrific programs that they have come up with. Are there any additional questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last year, we discussed the issue of bullying at the school, and the statement was stated that the question might have been posed wrong, and that we were going to alter the question this year so that we might get a truer result. If you look at this, it says bullying is not a problem at my school, and 28.8% of the kids think that that's not. That means 72% of the school thinks that there is a problem.
No, it's the other way around.
Bullying is not a problem in my
That's
school.
a typo.
That's what was said last year, and everybody said that they were going to fix it.
No, sorry. So last year, I'm sorry. So it's on the second page where the parents are like, so this,
The parent says bullying is a problem,
Right.
and that's much lower. So that's what was another one of my question was exactly how was it posed to the kids? Was it the same as it was to the parent?
yes, bullying is a problem in Chappaqua School. So last year it said bullying is not a problem at my school. And the percentages were different. So it was 61.1% in 2017-18, 65.6% in 2018-19.
So down in the graph where it says bullying is a problem, you're saying that that one's the more accurate one?
Yes,
says it is?
that
Okay.
matches the percentages. The typo is just the word not.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
You know why my radar went off, right? Okay, just checking. And then again, how many parents commented on or replied to this?
About 35%. in the
Again, on
district.
this one too?
Yes, yep.
Can we bribe them somehow to fill this out, like candy bar?
It's
I mean,
it's always a challenge every year, and
yeah,
communicate with parents, but like I said before, it is an increase from previous years. It's usually around 30%.
are they prompted with these questions, or do they get the form, they read it, they answer it? Or is the teacher kind of like reading it and then the kids are filling it out?
So two things. So all of our students fill this out.
Right.
All of them.
Yep.
And they are not prompted.
So is it the teacher relaying the question to them, or they have a piece of paper, they read it, they answer?
They do it online.
Yeah, okay.
And the questions are not read to them.
Or they read it themselves and then I think that's what I meant by prompted, like it's
No,
dictated would have been a better word. Okay. That was it.
So, Amanda, I'm looking at writing, right?
Yes.
And I think, as you discussed, I think there's a lot of room for improvement there. So I guess my question is, when you look at the goals, we don't have a set goal regarding writing. Are you incorporating that into the reading portion of the goal, or are we not setting writing as a goal, I guess?
So reading is technically our goal, those are our district-wide goals, but our, like, under the strategies, it talks about looking at ELA data, so it's all the English literature data. So we do always look at, all aspects of it, and then we look at the writing data specifically with teachers and grade level teams, so we do.
Okay. Because I think that's our greatest area that we need to work on. I think it's pretty evident. I mean, when you're talking that half, basically, for all intents and purposes, of our students are meeting or exceeding our writing goals, that leaves much to be desired. I think everything else is on par with probably what we expected as far as COVID effect and that sort of thing. But year after year, in my 4 years on the board, it seems like that's been our constant struggle, is the writing area. So I guess my question is, you look at reading strategies and indicators and whatnot, how does that relate in the classroom? So we can look at data all we want, but what we do with that data, I think, is probably more important, right? So so the board can better understand, you look at that data, how does that equate to actual work for the students in the classroom? Are we doing more writing work? Are we, concentrating on that more often? What exactly are we doing to improve our writing scores?
So, so at the beginning of the year, teachers administer a writing prompt to their students that they score, and it's scored based on how is it organized, how much do they elaborate, their spelling, whether they wrote an introduction, how it, all of those things, right? And then the teachers look at that data, and while they're instructing with their the writing lessons according to Writer's Workshop, they might pull a small group that needs additional work with introduction and really work on that. They might work on something like elaboration. One of the things that we see is that students are, they'll write a story about, there's a piece about why dogs are the best animals. They'll write an opinion piece about that. But then there's overlap with their ideas. Sometimes they have trouble with identifying distinct ideas. So the teacher might pull those kids and give them some strategies to come up with really distinct ideas. So it might be that I can't even think of anything right now, but they're just not providing enough support, and so there's overlap. It might be like, well, you can buy a poodle, and they'll give you reasons, and then they'll talk about why you can buy a border collie, and those ideas just overlap. We talk to them about how to separate those ideas. So those are done in like small groups.
Small group instruction, sure. Yeah.
Do we have enough support staff for them to do that? Do we have enough support to give our teachers? Like, do we have people coming in and help it? Like, do we have enough of that to help the teachers? Like, support staff to come in and help pull these groups, or?
Yeah, I do think we do. I do. I think there is, especially this year, with the addition of the paraprofessionals, that you all agreed to then, thanks to the grant. I do. I feel like we are well supported right now.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, Tim, sorry.
Oh, no, that's all right. Go ahead.
In those small groups, is that shared between classrooms or generally just within each class?
So if the teacher's providing that, it's within the classroom. If our interventionists are providing it, sometimes it will be students from multiple classrooms.
Okay. I'm just wondering if, COVID
Right.
and distancing has impacted that process at all, or?
Last year it did. This year we're being mindful of who we're putting together, but within that, if we have a group where there's more than students from more than one classroom, we're trying to keep them separated and build it together, rather than like previously, we'd all be huddled around one table. They might be spread out a bit more.
Okay.
And if you look on, as far as under teaching and learning, Tim had a question as far as targets. So we're looking at 75% at proficiency at grade level in reading, writing, and math. So obviously, we have some areas to improve in writing. And we ask, well, how does that inform instruction, as Tim talked about? How does the data inform our instruction? So what we found out the last couple of years, and our leadership team is really focusing this on with teachers, is how to calibrate scores, how to calibrate writing prompts, how to calibrate and correct writing pieces, writing prompts of students. And we're really have a deep dive into the training for teachers, and that helps. Specifically, students, Tim asked the question, well, how does it really impact students in the classroom? Amanda's very eloquent, very comprehensive as far as small group instruction, very, very important. Students exchanging the writing prompts, having peer assessment, very, very big as far as that's concerned. And once again, with the heightened training as far as calibration, we feel we'll be able to improve some of these writing scores.
So on the subject of school climate, we're about 2 months or so, month and a half into the school year. It seems like a lot of the goals and strategies that you have in place here were in place pre-COVID. So is it fair to say that we are getting back to a level of normalcy or are almost back to a level of normalcy in the school?
Our goal is to get back to normal.
Sure.
I think that we are focusing more on social emotional needs of students. We are noticing that there's a difference when students have to wear masks. It's harder for them to read facial cues, to really communicate. So we are absolutely working. We've invented that much more. We're using the trauma screener, which we used last year as well to identify students who need additional supports. But yeah, our goal is to get back to normal.
So you're thinking we're still a little ways away from that normalcy?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
The new social worker, I might have the title wrong, we added her last year. Is she seeing progress? Is she seeing like a positive, I'm assuming so, but is she seeing progress? Is she struggling with anything? Is it on the up with everybody, all the kids?
Social worker.
Right,
So she is, so it's interesting because when she was hired was our
right.
COVID year. And I think that, I don't think that things have died down for her. Yeah, I think that, her work and the work of the school psychologist and the work that they're doing with Ruler is all having an impact. But, that's where I'm saying, like, we're not there.
Right.
Yeah, there are a lot of students who need support. And it's understandable, given
Yeah.
what the last year and a half has been like. We know what a struggle it's been for adults, and we're definitely seeing that with students. We are thrilled to have her because she is an incredible, amazing addition. She's providing second step lessons and seeing students individually and in small groups, and really having a very positive impact.
Does
Is that Amy? Is that who that you're talking about?
Allison,
Allison, Milana Mailman.
does she have the support that she needs? I honestly, I've seen and I've heard nothing but rave reviews for her. I don't want her to be burnt out. I just want to make sure that she's having the support that she needs. You know what I mean? Is she needing any of that? Are we able to meet that?
Yes, she definitely has the support. She works in conjunction with the school psychologist, and they're a great team, yes.
Just don't want to burn it out. When you hear reviews like that, you want to make sure that,
Will we be getting back into more events that bring the parents back into the school? So like bingo night and things of that nature, is that in the game plan at some point?
Yeah, it's interesting. So when when the finance team met in August, we were like all done out. Like we were like, yeah, we can do it all. And then of course our second week of school, we were really, had
Yeah.
a reality check there. But that's our goal. We love those events. We love, we would have loved to have an in-person open house. We would have, so our aim is to have things like bingo night.
Sure.
And, and like these virtual nights, rather than doing them virtually, we'd like to have people here. It's a totally different experience.
I think it adds to that social emotional aspect. It gets the kids out with other kids, and with their parents, in their school. I think it's an all-encompassing event. And so as difficult as the start of the school year has been, I would challenge the administration to do more of that. And the board, I think it's important that the board get out there and get back in the public eye as well. So, yeah.
And our community events are slowly coming back here as well. So Girl Scouts is slowly coming back. CCD is back in the school, and it really does present a totally different feel for the building too. And we're having volunteers start to come back. So all of those things I think are good signs that we're getting back to normal.
What did you say tennis emotion is you are doing it again?
Yes.
Did I miss something on that?
No, it hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
No, we are
Okay.
doing it at this year.
Okay, one more question.
Yeah.
Are you doing math enrichment again? I know you've done it in the past.
Now,
Olympiads.
Yes, yes, yep. So we did not do that last year. We're doing it again this year.
Okay.
Yep. And hopefully, like Karen said, like has seen that in a couple of years. So all of those things we're really we're planning for them.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you, Principal Shaw. Thank you, Principal Carroll. Proud of your leadership and the great work of your staff. Keep up the great work. And just two final notes. So as we've been doing the last few years, as far as full transparency, we put the school improvement plans on our website. They'll be on our website again. And I know the board talks about goals, seems like every spring. And I consider these three goals the board's goals as well. And once again, I cannot thank you enough for your support during the budget season, throughout the year, because we could not meet progress on these goals without the board's support. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda is public comment, and we have no public here this evening. So we will move to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tony? Discussion? I would like to just say, Brian, that the changes that are reflected that we made to the minutes of the previous meeting, can we just make sure that those are changed on those actual meeting minutes and reflected on our website? So we made the changes, they're changed here, but I want to make sure they're changed on the actual meeting minutes. That's the legal record, not this one.
Okay.
Any other discussion on those?
The only thing I would ask is in the meeting minutes, right, with just following up, and this may not be the place, maybe it needs to be looked differently, but there were some comments and public comment made. Did we respond to those questions or comments that were made in these meeting minutes? Did the superintendent or the board? And specifically, there was somebody who asked about updating the website for COVID protocols and guidelines, and then another one regarding the lack of discussing the 9/11 anniversaries in schools.
I did not respond, Brian.
So, no, the website has been updated, but I did not respond specifically to that individual, no.
Okay.
And I do believe, as far as 9/11, the principal did talk to that individual.
we just get updates on those, right? We
Sure.
talked about that back in, not even the last year, about public communications and making sure that we're responding appropriately and accordingly to public comment and communication with the board.
Sure.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, with nothing else on the agenda, is there a motion to adjourn at 8:15?
Sure.
Is there a second? All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.